In this fourth video of my 5-part series, we're going to look at what the board really does and when we might adjust it. Some of the diagrams may look familiar from my video about how a boat works, but this time we're going into more depth. A dagger board goes up and down through a slot in the boat. A centreboard pivots in and out of a housing called the centreboard case. This diagram shows the relative forces acting on a boat. We keep the sail trimmed at the correct angle to the wind to achieve a laminar airflow, and the boat turns around underneath the sail. In the bottom left corner, I've shown how the forwards and sideways forces on the boat change as the boat changes its angle to the wind. Because the amount of sideways force is changing, the amount of sideways resistance required from a board also changes. When the boat is sailing on a close haul, this is when the sail has the most sideways force on the boat. We therefore need the maximum amount of sideways resistance by putting the board down as much as possible. See here that the board is fully down when sailing on a close haul. As the boat turns further away from the wind, the amount of sideways resistance required progressively decreases, so we can raise the board to reduce drag or water resistance. Sailing on a broad reach now, notice the board has come up. We don't want to raise the board too far though. The board works with the rudder to provide a pivot point to steer around. If we remove the board entirely, the boat might not turn, but instead it could crab sideways across the water, with the wind in the sails pulling the boat downwind. If we raise a dagger board too much, the boom will catch on the board and could cause us to capsize if we tack or jibe. If it all goes wrong, we need something to get hold of. As long as we can get our hands around it, we can then pull the board fully out to be able to right the boat. With a centreboard, there is an extra aspect to consider because we can move the centre of lateral resistance backwards and forwards. We have already looked at how sail balance affects the steering of a boat, and moving a centreboard can have similar effects. Because the centreboard rotates, the centre of lateral resistance moves backwards in the boat when we pull it up. This will make the boat want to bear away, because the sideways force from the sails is in front of the sideways resistance from the board. If we pull the centreboard too far up, we get a lot of lee helm. This is when we need to push the tiller to the leeward side to stay straight. It's probably best to find a middle ground where we've pulled the board up a bit, but without making the steering too heavy, so that we don't create drag from a rudder. When using a spinnaker, the centre of effort of the sails moves further forwards, and the sideways force on the boat increases. For these two reasons, it's normally best just to leave the board fully down if you're sailing with a spinnaker. The final video of this 5-part series is about our course made good. This is about considering all the variables that can affect our progress to get from A to B efficiently. As always, feel free to ask any questions below, and please hit that like button if you found it useful.